Good evening, friends, and welcome to a Mother's Day live stream. Happy Mother's Day to all of the great moms out there. And for those of you who, like myself, have lost a mother, we give thanks and praise to all the great memories we had with our moms. So happy Mother's Day, everybody. How you doing, Ed? What's going on?
Okay, good. Hold on. Something's happening here.
What do you got?
Okay, got it. Somehow I was hearing like your voice twice. Okay. It was echoing. Yes, everything is good. Yes, happy Mother's Day to you all. Welcome to the Mother's Day edition of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace.
Tonight, we're going to be going over the Idaho 4, Bryan Kohberger, shocking new evidence that was released. We saw it on Dateline, over an hour worth of, what do we want to call it? This is like, oohs and ahs, movie moments. But we want to talk about the new selfies that we didn't know of until Friday night that Bryan Kohberger took, 2 days before the collar in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. He was taking selfies of himself in the black double hoodies, the WSU hoodie all over, and some other learned, early on, Ed, I want to say we heard that he was potentially having some of his victims' pictures from their social media on their phones, but that's not exactly what we heard here, that he had friends of their friends and people who they were following pictures of them, girls, blonde, brunette, different things on his phone, pornographic searches, watching other YouTube content creators like Joseph Scott Morgan, our good friend, and many, many other YouTube coverage on this case. Ed, your thoughts on that, and how does that bode for the state, and how does it bode for the defense team?
Well, the noose is tightening around Bryan, and I know there's a lot of Bryan people out there. What do we call them? Pro-burgers? They're not going to be too happy with all of this news here that is coming out. Everything is trickling out slowly but surely, and the amount of evidence is just becoming overwhelming.
Yeah, as these days go by and we keep hearing more and more about what Bryan Kohberger did in the days before and the months and days and weeks before, but more importantly, before he's arrested. Don't forget, for those of you who are covering or watching this or covering this case, Bryan Kohberger had a considerable amount of time, over 30 days, to clean up his, clean up his home office, clean up his car, clean up the things, apartment, so forth. As a matter of fact, the night of the 30th, when he was collared at his parents' home, they watched him for a long period of time. The FBI had that special lens where they were watching him from a very far distance, but he was cleaning up on the night he was arrested when that search warrant was executed in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. Isn't that so, Ed?
That's right. He was wearing a black hoodie. He was wearing rubber gloves, and
whoops, what did I do to Ed? Ed, go ahead. Black hoodie, rubber gloves?
Rubber gloves and a plastic bag when they busted into his house and arrested him.
Yeah, and I understand that he was putting items into that plastic bag, like a plastic Ziploc bag, and then going to his neighbor's house and putting and disposing of the garbage off of his property, right?
Yes, he would walk down the street in the wee hours of the morning and open up his neighbor's garbage that were put out to the curb for sanitation to pick up, and then deposit his garbage in that garbage can, not his family's garbage can.
Right. Unbelievable. We are still obviously covering the Karen Reed case. We're going to be watching day 14 on Monday, tomorrow, and we'll have updates possibly tomorrow night, because don't forget, Sergeant Buchanan is going to be back on the stand. I don't think he was done with him. I don't think AJ was done with him.
No, so, Yuri's back.
Yeah, Yuri Buchanan is back. Some people refer to him, and as a matter of fact, a witness in the first trial called him Sergeant Bukaki. And it was a witness that was called by the defense, and it made headlines. Anybody in the chat remember that first go around in Karen Reed trial? I don't remember who it was. It was a blonde woman, but I don't remember who she was. But she made she called him that on the stand, and it's in the minutes. So it was pretty interesting. Kristen, yeah, AJ, that's his famous line, "We ain't got no quit." Let's listen to Steve Goncalves, Kaylee Goncalves' father, on Banfield last night. Let's listen to what he had to say about the new released information. And there's a lot to unpack here. We'll get into it in this hour.
I'm joined by Steve Goncalves, father of Kaylee Goncalves, who was one of the 4 kids murdered inside 1122 King Road. Steve, there's a lot of blockbuster revelations by NBC. One of the ones I found so upsetting was the allegation that these are pictures of University of Idaho girls on Bryan Kohberger's phone. Do you have any idea if Kaylee was among them?
I don't know, but I find it very telling that there was other students that are supposed to be in their friend circles that are on that phone for sure.
And do you know anything more about what that mother, Angela Naveja's, with the daughter Ashlyn, who was best friends with Maddie? Do you know anything more about that child's story? I mean, that girl's story. You know, Ashlyn was supposed to spend the night there. It's just so upsetting to think what happened. Why didn't she?
I don't know the details on Ashlyn. I definitely know Ashlyn. I've met and hung out with her. We've done fundraisers together, and her mother. So, yeah, I know that she spent. You know, she used to be a roommate there. So, I'm a little surprised at how that night, but I'm not surprised that she would be over there and hanging out with the girls at all.
Boy, have you had a chance to talk with her since the revelation that she was supposed to be there and wasn't and decided not to be?
No, and I just heard that she doesn't want to come back to Idaho, and I've got a daughter who's going to Texas for college now, so I kind of understand how it feels for some of these side victims, that how they feel like they just don't feel safe and they want to just run, get out of the area. So her saying that is kind of rang true with our daughter.
The internet search is alleged to be, Ted Bundy and then non-consensual violent sex. You've said that this stands out because of reports before from the Reddit survey that Bryan Kohberger sent out, as a criminology student, asking other criminals about their methods. Talk to me more about that.
Yeah, we got a letter and it had a phone number in there, and we called this individual, and he said he had been interviewed by Bryan. And he got the sense that Bryan was getting off on his story. And his story was basically he'd listen to a police scanner, wait for somebody to call the police on a domestic violence type thing. And then the male would be arrested. And then he would go into those neighborhoods, and that would be the house that he would rob. So he said that Bryan seemed to enjoy his story. And he said that he had he felt like he started enjoying certain aspects of his story, where he would talk about drunk females passed out, and he basically said, I could have done anything. I was just going for jewelry, going for money, going for whatever he was. But Bryan would call him back repeatedly and want to know more details on that story.
It's all just so upsetting. And I know we're getting closer and closer to this trial where we will hear actual evidence as opposed to reports. Steve, thank you for that. I also want to let our audience, Steve, know that your family has to travel upwards of 8 hours to be at the trial of Bryan Kohberger, and it's expected to last for months. So, folks, a friend of the Goncalves family has set up a GoFundMe to help them make that repeated travel. It's called Help Kaylee Goncalves' Family Attend Trial. If you want to go there, there's the address for you. The name of the GoFundMe account is right there.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. And just so you guys know, I've been communicating with Steve on the side, and I'm trying to work out a date and a time for him to come on with us to take some questions. And, again, he's receptive to it, but he's got so much going on. He's being pulled in so many different directions. It's not something that I'm trying to push. I'm just trying to get him to come on and, maybe talk to you guys and talk to the people who have supported justice. Now, we always talk about not being a cheerleader for monsters. We're a cheerleader for justice. And he's been watching our shows religiously, and he was very Ed, I shared that email, that back and forth communication with Steve. And we always talk about the victims and their families, Ed. And he was very complimentary about not only us, but our community. So kudos to you guys in the chat and everybody who is being respectful as it pertains to 4 innocent lives that were snuffed out in their prime of their lives in their early 20s. These are young adults. And Ed, I know you got a lot to say about supporting victims and their families, and you're gung-ho to always lend a helping hand to a family in need.
100%, Ron, 100%. You know, my heart bleeds for these families of the 4 victims here. And, you know, and so whatever we can do, folks, if you saw that GoFundMe, let's help out as much as we can. I know times are tough with money and so forth. But if you can have some change that you can spare, let's maybe donate to that GoFundMe so that he can get hotel rooms and stay and travel back and forth to the trial.
Absolutely. We're going to post a link in the description. And as you guys also know, this coming week is Police Week, and we support our men and women in blue, the good ones that are out there. Ed and I know, Ed, I don't know if you've ever made the trip down there, but It's unbelievable down in DC. So this happens every year at this time of year. And we support our brothers and sisters in blue who are doing the job the right way.
So this is down in Washington, D.C., there's the police memorial, and then they have the ceremony for all the new names that have been added to the memorial wall from last year.
Yep, the members of the service who's fallen in the line of duty. So again, it's a time of year to acknowledge not only service but sacrifice, right, Ed?
Absolutely.
So, again, I wanted to just play a quick clip because Ed has a couple of he put together unbelievable charts that we're going to go over. And but before we get into it, I want to just show just one more little news clip, and it's local. I like to listen to what locals have to say, and this is the local news in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, where Bryan Kohberger's family, where he grew up, where he was ultimately arrested. So let's take a listen to what they had to say about this new and developing information. Welcome, everybody. Let us know where you're watching, city, state, and country. If you're new, let us know new in the chat so we can acknowledge. We love our new and our replay and our watchers. So thank you, everybody, for being here.
Bryan Kohberger case have been revealed tonight in a special NBC Dateline report.
Yeah, the man accused of murdering 4 University of Idaho students facing trial this summer in 2822's Gianna Gali sat down the former Luzerne County prosecutor who has made several appearances on national TV breaking down that case. She's live in the studio tonight with the latest analysis. Gianna?
Nick, this evening, Dateline aired a 2-hour special sharing new details, evidence, and video that took place before and after the murder. Former Luzerne County Assistant District Attorney Jarrett Ferrantino has extensively analyzed this case from the beginning and says it's only looking worse for the accused.
With the trial of accused killer Bryan Kohberger now just 12 weeks away, it's the crime no one can forget.
In Datelines, the terrible night on King Road, evidence appears to be stacking up against the man accused of stabbing 4 college students to death.
As the new information has come out, it's painting a dark picture of Bryan Kohberger.
Former Luzerne County Assistant District Attorney Jarrett Ferrantino has analyzed this case on many national news networks since the murder happened in 2022.
What happened in that house? Why 4 victims? Why any?
Narrated by Dateline's Keith Morrison, the special provided more insight into those questions. Investigators say Kohberger was found shopping on Amazon for a K-bar knife and sheath. It matched the same brand of sheath found in the bed of one of the victims. Home security video, exclusively obtained by Dateline near the murder scene, shows the white car investigators believe was driven by Kohberger circling the block around the time of the murders several times. And police say Kohberger searched the internet before and after the murders for information about serial killer Ted Bundy.
All of these pieces of evidence together are very, very strong. Individually, what the defense is going to try to do is knock each of them out one at a time. But you run into a brick wall here. The DNA is in.
And that DNA, Ferrantino says, will be the toughest piece of evidence for the defense to explain.
Good luck with that.
That's not all. Morrison had an
That's coming from a prosecutor in Luzerne County in Pennsylvania. He said, "Good luck with that." I love that, Ed. What'd you think?
Yeah, it gave me that Liam Neeson vibe.
I liked it. I liked it so much. We're gonna play it again.
Good luck with that.
That's not all. To explain.
Good luck with that.
That's not all. Morrison had an exclusive interview with a woman who exchanged numbers with Kohberger at a pool party months before the killings.
Oof.
It was almost overly formal. I really enjoy that activity. So, can you follow up with me about that?
She said the text message she received from him made her uncomfortable.
How will his attorneys defend Bryan Kohberger with the death penalty hanging over his head?
Prosecutors plan to seek the death penalty if Kohberger is convicted in trial. Ferrantino says nothing can change that unless Kohberger pleads guilty. At this phase, this close to trial, Ferrantino feels the defense is up against the clock.
They're running out of options.
Bryan Kohberger's trial is set to begin on August 11th. Ferrantino anticipates from now until then, both the defense and prosecution will be mentally and physically preparing for a 4 to 6 month long trial.
Creepy, Ed, right? That girl with the text messages, she's probably breathing a sigh of relief, like looking back at what could have been with Bryan Kohberger.
Yeah, that one and his coworker on campus. They're both breathing a sigh of relief.
Yeah, that's the girl you're referring to that he went and helped with the security cameras.
The surveillance camera, because somebody broke into her apartment and rearranged her stuff and stole a watch and some other little trinket, then put a cake in a microwave.
This guy's really giving me that serial killer vibe. Like he really lusted and enjoyed that thrill of the hunt. And, when we hear this trial kick off, and Ed, I'm so tempted, if our schedules allow it, to go out there just even for a day and be in that courtroom. I would love to go out there. I don't know about you, brother, but
let's do it. If I'm around, let's go out there. Let's take a trip.
I'd love to take just say like a Thursday trip and then stay Thursday, Friday, catch 2 days, stay a weekend, and then come home on Monday. So this way we can meet some of our followers and some of the people who watch our show. Nate Eaton will be there, and I'm sure like so many other people who are covering this case. And then we could also do some recaps from the hotel. I think that would be pretty cool. Just know if we'd be able to get in, to the courtroom. Let's take a pool of our live chat. How many of you guys would love to see Ed Wallace and myself head out to Idaho to watch a couple of days of the Bryan Kohberger trial and then report on it, live from outside the courthouse and also in our hotel rooms at night? I think that would be an interesting thing if we could pull it off. That would be really cool. I see a lot of people saying yes, and we're not even putting like a number one or a number two. If you'd like to see Ed and I go out there for the trial, put a 1 in the chat. If you'd rather not and let us stay here and cover it, put a 2. I think a lot of people would be interested in that. I think that would be really cool to do that. And I want to see this scumbag in person. I really want to see this guy in person in the courtroom. It would be an interesting thing. Ed, what do you got? Are you?
I'm trying to figure out when CrimeCon is this year.
It's in Colorado, and I don't.
In
know.
Denver, yeah,
in Denver. So a lot of people would like to see it. I definitely would like to do it, and I just had the thought of it over this weekend, and wanted to pool the chat, see how everybody.
What's the date on that? Do you know?
August 11th is
CrimeCon is August 11th, or the trial?
I'm talking about Kohberger. I don't know about CrimeCon.
Okay.
We're not set up to do that because of the cancer diagnosis. I didn't even look into doing anything like that. But if it was going on at the same time, that would be really nifty because we could do both. That would be pretty cool just to go and see it. So Yahoo News and also Fox News showed the hoodie, and I have Banfield's 21-minute interview. I believe it was on her YouTube channel and on Lauren Crime as well. I'm not going to bore us with 21 minutes of her talking and oohs and ahs.
Everything.
But I want to do, I definitely want to scroll forward to those selfies. And she talks about his, the student that was, a colleague of his at WSU that he tried to help out. And I'm going to put this on the screen real quick. Hold on.
Was with whom Kohberger shared an office at.
Right. They shared the office. And this is who you were referring to, right, Ed?
Yeah.
Ooh. Difficult at best looking back at this thing for her and her family, and some survivor's guilt as well. And they talked about Ashlyn, the one who was a roommate at one time in the 1122 King Road home, who was supposed to stay there that night. And it gives me the vibes of, like, when people say, well, I was supposed to be on that flight and it went down and everybody perished, but at last minute it got canceled, or my plans got canceled and I wasn't on that flight. It's almost that same vibe, because 4 people lost their lives, obviously playing, many people losing their lives, but it's like that same, like, hair on your arms stand up and you're like, woof, we really dodged a bullet here. But let's listen to this, because she talks about the hoodie here. I want to stop it when it gets to the hoodie picture.
WSU, somebody Dateline described as one of the only friends that Bryan Kohberger had. She shared with NBC that she believed someone had broken into her apartment because her stuff was rearranged weird.
Who do you think that might have been, folks?
Somebody with excessive compulsive disorder?
Exactly.
A cake that she had baked was found in the microwave. Items in her bathroom were lined up in an odd way. And 2 of her things were missing: a watch and a letter. A letter. Not a lot of value for just a old-fashioned burglar to steal a letter. But that was what was gone: a watch and a letter. Later on, this same woman told the police that before that break-in had happened, she'd lost her apartment key. She said she kept the key in a specific drawer in her office.
And I'm going to stop it here, because I know you're reading this comment. I highlighted this from Greg McNeely. Can you see the comment, or do you want me to read it?
I'm reading it. Okay. Get the perfect crime foiled by some pesky traffic convenience store cams and an iPhone. Yeah, it's a little bit more than that. Wait till you see what I have to show you in a little bit.
Yeah. Everybody, we got Ed put together 2 charts that will blow your mind, and Ed's going to narrate it and walk us through it. So, but thank you for that, Greg.
The same office that she shared with Bryan Kohberger. A few hours after she noticed that it was missing, the key mysteriously reappeared. So, feeling unsafe after the break-in, Dateline reports that she went to Kohberger's apartment seeking his help. Remember, she thinks they're friendly, close even. And now, looking back on things, she wonders if he was the one who broke into her apartment in the first place and did all those very strange things.
So let's stop it for a second.
Also reported.
So, folks, just to put this in some context, she kept her apartment key in a drawer in her desk in the same work office that Bryan Kohberger shared with her. She finds it missing. And then hours later, it's back. And then another day after that, she gets burglarized. So that's the order in how things went down. And now she goes to Bryan after the burglary for assistance. Now we're back to speed.
Thank you, Ed.
That this same woman actually had a romantic interest in Bryan Kohberger. And that when she said something to the effect of, "Hey, I'd like something more with you," Bryan Kohberger apparently got cold feet and began to distance himself. The woman said it was actually upsetting. NBC News reports that on September 30th, Kohberger Googled sociopathic traits in college student. Then, according to NBC, things ramp up again. October 4th, 6:12 a.m., Kohberger is all over social media, searching women at WSU, Washington State University, and the University of Idaho, too. October 5th, 3:29 a.m., more searches of women. October 9th, 2:15 a.m. He Googles explicit terms related to pornography, like forced, passed out, drugged, sleeping. October.
And I'm sure that Ashley Banfield is making this PG-13. It doesn't seem like she's completing those sentences, but you could just fill in the blanks there for what he searched for. It was all pornographic. So it just adds just another dimension to this whole thing, Ed.
Yep.
And you know, we've heard so much thus far. It just, you know, again, building up to the trial starting early in August 11th. There's going to be so much more that comes out. But let's let this finish because she gets into the hoodie and the pictures.
19th, 5:37 a.m. Another search. Can psychopath behave prosocially? In the Dateline episode, there were a number of new blurry selfies of Bryan Kohberger on his own phone. Keith Morrison said the photos were resized for quality, but otherwise unchanged. Many were of Bryan in black hoodies, sometimes wearing 2 layers of black clothing, different poses, different outfits.
And that, you know, again, Ed, I wanted to stop these because this is right in line with Bethany Funk and, you know, the only eyewitness to the perpetrator inside 1122 King Road on that fateful morning. A person wearing all black with bushy eyebrows. And this is what he was, you know, taking selfies on his phone 2 days before he got collared. This is him with a WSU hoodie on. So interesting.
Yeah, he did it from November all the way into December.
Right.
With all, see, exactly. And very similar to what I wore that one episode we did.
Absolutely. And I was, you took the words right out of my mouth. Like this one here towards the end, and I can't get it to.
The photos were resized.
Let me just see if I can get it to stop right on it. Yeah, right there. Just creepy to the 10th degree. But it just puts a new spin on this with the bushy eyebrows, wearing all black. And when they did the search warrant return from his WSU campus apartment, what did they take from there? Black Nike sweatpants, black sweatshirt. It's just, you know, he's got this theme for wearing black. And look, nothing against people that like to wear black. I have a lot of friends who love to wear black. It's slenderizing. Some people like it. There's a preference. But this puts validity to the statements of the one and only witness.
You know, and during one of the hearings, they mentioned that the prosecutor, one of the evidence hearings, that he wasn't going to use a receipt for a Dickies jumpsuit.
His parents, not his parents, the parents of Kaylee Goncalves also, Ed, I'm going to put us back on, also mentioned on a interview that, and this was a previous interview, that they believed that Bryan Kohberger brought a kill kit with him to this location.
Right.
And, you know, that there was talk about that. And I know you spoke about it as well, because there's so many people that have, and let me know in the chat, and let us, both Ed and I, know how with this described scene, and I hate to keep rehashing this, Ed, but we have to, how with such a bloody crime scene as that's described by the coroner, Kathleen Mabbitt, could there be not one speck other than the obvious, one speck of additional DNA evidence of Bryan Kohberger? I think that's why there's so many pro-burgers out there, because they're like, what the F? How could this guy have not left his DNA? Ed, you're an expert.
You know, he used his clothes as his PPE. Instead of wearing a tie-back suit, he wore this outfit, and he had his underneath that outfit. He had his clean clothes, and when he completed, he had his kill kit in a gym bag. All right, so when he gets out, he rips off those clothes, bags it up, and takes off and deposits it and hides it wherever he disposes of it, whether that's in the river or by Costco or on the route along the way back to his apartment.
How many people are watching here tonight from that Poconos region? I saw somebody that put something in the chat that they're from the Poconos. His parents lived in a gated community in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. How many people are from that Pennsylvania region and have been following the story and may or may not be shocked with it? And I'm sure that there's people who are watching this true crime episode that are probably people from that community. And I mean, you can't not be interested in this because it involves a PhD student who has no criminal history, and that all of a sudden, out of nowhere, now we don't know how long he's been thinking about this, or maybe has been planning or thinking, however you guys want to term it. But I mean, here we are. We're just months away from a trial on August 11th kicking off. And this is, I'm going to let a little more of this play, Ed, and then we'll go to your chart, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Many were of Bryan in black hoodies, sometimes wearing 2 layers of black clothing, different poses, different outfits. He also had screenshots of various Instagram profiles saved as pictures to his phone. The screenshots were photos of young women, blondes, brunettes from both WSU and University of Idaho. According to Dateline, some of the people whose social media was saved onto Kohberger's phone were either close friends or social media followers of Maddie Mogan, Kaylee Goncalves, and Xana Kernodle. One criminal profiler told Dateline that those images, quote, fueled his fantasies, and that ultimately, allegedly, filled his fantasies. And then on the night of the murders, November 13th, Dateline showed never-before-seen surveillance video that captured a white car making multiple passes in front of the house at 1122 King Road, all captured on camera at these times: 3:30 a.m., 3:33 a.m., 3:38 a.m., 3:40 a.m., 3:56 a.m., 3:58 a.m. And then at 4:20 a.m., the white car speeds away. In the footage, you can hear what seems to be the white car's engine revving up. Here's what else is new. At 6:17 a.m., not even 2 full hours after the white car was seen on surveillance, leaving 1122 King Road, Dateline reports that Bryan Kohberger makes a 36-minute phone call to a number on his father's family plan. And apparently every family member had a phone registered to Bryan Kohberger's dad. It was the first of three calls to numbers registered to his dad that morning. And the longest call, that lasted 54 minutes. And then, as we know, at 10:31 a.m., he takes that now infamous selfie in what looks like a bathroom, smiling, seemingly very pleased and seemingly freshly showered. Keith Morrison
Ed, I want to stop it here because I want to get your opinion on this. We know that Bryan Kohberger came back in the early morning hours, up 9 o'clock, and there's these different times. I don't have the times in my head, but we know that he came back and did that drive around and was like coming back to the scene of the crime, maybe to get back that knife sheath, maybe to see all the emergency services vehicles there. What about that? This video that we see at night here, right? How about during the trial? I'm talking about this camera right here. it doesn't capture him in the daylight? Because if it does capture him driving by in the daylight, that's going to be much better look at that white Hyundai Elantra. Wouldn't you agree, Ed?
Right, but this is the night of the attack. Remember, he visited this scene 23 times way before this. So if this camera catches him in those 23 times before here, you know, that same white car,
Right.
you know, and that came out also from even the defense team. That came out in pretrial hearings about these 23 visits. They admitted
Right.
his car, you know, they just didn't, you know, they were just arguing about how the car is going to be described.
But what I'm saying too here is that, yeah, I get the previous visits and stuff like that, but it was stated in some of the court documents and some of the dumps that Kohberger was the movement of his cell phone and his car came past this location. Even I think even as late as 10 o'clock in the morning, that morning of these murders. So if that in fact is true,
Right.
we're going to
He
see clear.
I'm sorry, he didn't shut off his cell phone for that visit.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. And that's where they were tracking him. So what I'm saying is this look that we're looking at right here, and this is with the pumpkins that were lit up, and that's the girl who said, "Oh, you know, I'm out of here." Remember after the murders, she was interviewed right at the top of these steps, and they were like, "Oh, you know, so you're not staying for the Thanksgiving break?" And like, she's like, "I'm getting the hell out of here." So it's this view. If they capture him in the daylight, with the Sonata, and it may not. I mean, with the Elantra, it may not have been released publicly, but you damn sure know that the defense has it. That would be something that I feel we're going to see in the ooh and ah moments during the trial. Is if you see that his car go by here as clear as day in the daylight, this is a pretty clear, crystal clear look that we'll have of that vehicle. So we'll see.
Now remember this view here. The street is to the right that leads to the crime scene. So this is in the back of the house.
Yeah, right, going up here where this, right?
No, this street right to your right, going straight down to your right,
leads to the house. Greg Neely's back at it again in the chat saying pings do not equal triangulation. I love it. I love it. So Ed, yeah, I want to let a little bit more of this play because it's almost over, and I want to just hear a little bit more of this so the folks in the chat can get a little
a.m. 3:56 a.m. 3:58 a.m. on surveillance, leaving 1122 King Road. Dateline report 10 a.m. Not even 2 full hours after the white car was seen on surveillance, leaving 1122 King Road. Dateline reports that Bryan Kohberger makes a 36-minute phone call to a number on his father's family plan. And apparently every family member had a phone registered to Bryan Kohberger's dad. It was the first of three calls to numbers registered to his dad that morning. And the longest call, that lasted 54 minutes.
Interesting.
And then, as we know, at 10:31 a.m., he takes that now infamous selfie in what looks like a bathroom, smiling, seemingly very pleased and seemingly freshly showered. Keith Morrison described that once police were called and arrived at 1122 King Road that morning, they found Xana Kernodle in a massive pool of blood. They found Ethan Chapin, according to NBC, dead in Xana's bed. And then there's what Dateline revealed about the crime scene itself. They say Xana may have heard something upstairs on the 3rd floor and maybe even gone to check on Kayla.
These are those mysterious guys that came back, remember? The News Nation's, I think, Elizabeth show, or one of the reporters were outside and were asking these guys, who are you? And they didn't answer any questions.
And Maddie up there. According to NBC And revealed about the crime scene itself. They say Xana may have heard something upstairs on the 3rd floor and maybe even gone to check on Kaylee and Maddie up there. According to NBC sources, Xana was likely chased back downstairs to the 2nd floor, possibly the moment that Bryan Kohberger, if he's the killer, dropped or left behind that knife sheath. The fight that followed in Xana's room, according to Dateline.
Ed, are those Stop and Shop bags?
Oh, don't get me going. Slowly I turned, step by step, inch by inch.
Was brutal. So brutal that investigators found a blood-stained chair, suggesting that the killer either sat down or brushed against it during the attack. And then, as for Ethan, Dateline again with some astounding information. They report that one of Ethan's wounds pierced an artery and that his legs were, quote, carved. Their words, carved. I have to just jump in here for a moment because unless we learn something earth-shattering about the forensics at trial, it is hard to imagine what forensic information could lead any investigator to have a theory that Xana left her room with Ethan, went all the way down her hall, turned right and up the stairs to the 3rd floor, only to come running back down without screaming so loud that at least Dylan would hear because she'd run right past Dylan's door and then down the hall back to her room. There's nothing so far in anything that we've seen in any of the court documents or affidavits or police documents to suggest this forensically could have happened. But Dateline says the source says this is what is possible, that Xana may have run back down to her room and then met this extraordinary, violent death, and that Ethan, his death, was on the bed. And Dateline also aired some chilling audio captured at 4:17 a.m., a faint whimper followed by a loud thud. Presumably, this audio was captured by a neighbor's ring cam or door cam or surveillance camera. And we know audio captured at 4:17 a.m., a faint whimper followed by a loud thud. Presumably, this audio was captured by a neighbor's ring cam or door cam or surveillance camera. And we know that the neighbor off to the left of the King Road house, if you're looking out from the house, had such a surveillance system set up. If you see on this overhead view, the red circle is where the King Road house used to stand before it was knocked down, and it faced outward towards Queen Road. To the left of it, you can see 1112 and that little white staircase. That's the view that you're seeing from the Dateline surveillance camera that captures the car. And you can also see that it points out towards King Road, clearly on the opposite side of the house from the home where the 4 students were murdered. It's possible that the same camera that caught the white car driving up King Road and taking a right on Queen Road was the camera that captured the audio clear behind the house next door where those 4 students lived. The audio of the faint whimper.
Just so you know, they estimated that that camera was just, I think they said 50 feet, Ed, correct me if I'm wrong, from the house through, it's like a little like walkway that leads, if you go down those stairs and you go and if you're walking down the stairs, you clip to the left, you could walk straight back through and see 1122 King Road from that house. It's the side of it. Basically right right off to the side of this. This goes towards the front of the house over here. So, yeah. So the camera's here. There's this walkway where you go down these stairs. You can go right here and boom, you're right looking into the backyard of 1122. You follow me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Where the 4 students were murdered. It's possible that the same camera that caught the white car driving up King Road and taking a right on Queen Road was the camera that captured the audio clear behind the house next door where those 4 students lived. The audio of the faint whimper, the loud thud, and the dog barking. And then Maddie and Kaylee were found together, as has been reported before, stabbed to death in the same bed on the 3rd floor. 3 days later, November 16th, 9:16 a.m., Bryan Kohberger Googles University of Idaho murders. That same day, police held their first press conference. And then 2 days later, November 18th, 12:16 a.m., Dateline reports that Bryan Kohberger was watching a specific video on YouTube. The thumbnail of that video says, "The Perfect Killing Machine, Ted Bundy, Serial Killer, Unsolved No More." Dateline says for 6 weeks between the murder and his arrest, Kohberger watched even more YouTube videos about the murders on King Road, almost appearing as though he was collecting coverage. And here's where things really made my skin crawl. Welcome back. The eyes of the nation are on the Idaho quadruple murders.
And over the next 6 weeks, records show, photos and videos and news updates about the King Road murders were viewed or saved.
Apparently, my own coverage of this case made a cameo appearance. I'm not sure if Dateline is saying absolutely that one of the files that Bryan Kohberger was watching was me and my coverage, but I have often wondered, as we're on the lookout for a killer who is unknown until he or she is known, is that killer watching television to try to stay one step ahead? Is that killer watching television because they obsess over their own handiwork? But God forbid the thought that Bryan Kohberger might have been watching my work on an even semi-regular basis before his capture. It makes me terrified. It makes me terrified because if he is the killer, what else would he have fantasized about?
Wasn't it interesting, Ed, to hear in previous coverage from Banfield that she herself had a burner phone and she used that burner phone to call the Latah County Jail to get an interview with Bryan Kohberger? I think she's probably thinking about that right now and saying, you know, maybe there's certain times where you push it too far. I don't know if how many of you in the chat follow Banfield's coverage, but that was one that stood out to me because I, on our show together, Ed and I, we called her out on it and said that was creepy to admit on your own coverage. It was one of the guys who was outside of a prison, and it was the prison inmates that were putting lights on and off. I forgot what case it was that we were covering.
Upstate New York.
There you go. Yeah, It was the upstate New York case. And she was saying that, not too many people have burner phones, and a lot of times it's bad. It's the bad people that have it. But I have to admit, I have a burner phone, and I use it to call Bryan Kohberger every day to see if I can do an interview. And her own words, not mine.
Yeah, it was something else. Okay.
Yeah, I think it was the Mangione. It was Luigi Mangione. That was it. Future. Thank you for jarring my memory because I wasn't sure. But so let's just.
Oh, it was Mangione, and it was in Pennsylvania, right before he came to New York.
Yeah, it was when he was.
Yeah, yes, that's right. That's right. Now I'm okay. I was thinking of the other incident. Yeah.
Yeah, she had the young reporter Alex something outside of the thing, and they were turning the lights on and off.
And the prisoners were yelling at him from outside, from their windows.
Right, exactly. Mm-hmm. So, So I saved this clip, and I think we played it in the beginning of the program. Ashley Banfield interviewed Steve Goncalves, and he was asked outright about, and he was with his wife. So I didn't play that full video, but he was asked with his wife about the drug theory, about, you know, somebody put it in the chat about there was like some type of drug connection to these quadruple homicides, and he said, "Oh, that's completely untrue. The girls had nothing to do with drugs. None of them, were drug users." And he called it hogwash, and he said it was just people trying to sensationalize it. And you never want to get involved in sensationalism when it comes to 4 college students who lost their lives so brutally at 1122 King Road. You wouldn't wish this obviously on your worst enemy. You don't wish it on anybody, for that matter. But let me just disengage. Ed, if you want to check the chat for some questions, and I'll pull up your chart, and you can tell everybody what we're going to be looking at here and what you're going to present to us as it pertains to Kohberger.
So yeah, what I'm going to present is the totality of what we know thus far that has been published. There may be some 1 or 2 things that have been published that I don't have in here, but of what the prosecution is going to be using during the trial. So it's interesting because, like you said, there's a lot of debate going on here. I mean, there's a lot of pro-burgers, and they just are adamant that, for whatever reason, because they don't really articulate their reasons, that he is innocent. And then on the flip side, you got on the Karen Reed case, some of the same people that are pro-burgers are Karen Reed is guilty. Okay. Right. And and it's like, I'm trying to have a reasonable adult conversation to find out, how are they coming to these conclusions? And it just devolves into profanity and silliness. And then I have to break off the conversation.
Yeah, I agree. Ed, look, again, there's not going to be times where we say everything that we talk on, every point that we make is going to be agreed upon by everybody. And that's what's great about, having a conversation, having open discourse where you can, air your thoughts and your opinions and have a good conversation about it. The problem is that people don't understand is that we don't just pick and choose what sides we go on. We let the evidence show us, and the testimony and the legitimacy of that testimony. And there's many different factors into the way we look at these cases and make our professional decisions on.
Right. I mean, yeah, we're giving you our years of experience or training, things that we've actually done and seen. Okay. Things that we participated in, and training, certifications, education, all of these things, combined. And so we're giving you our opinion basically. Now, you don't have to agree with us, right, whatever your background is. I don't know, and you don't have to agree with us, but at least we can be respectful to each other and have a discourse. And I can respectfully agree to disagree. But, don't take this thing to the gutter, when I'm trying to understand how you feel and why you feel the way you feel.
Yeah, exactly. So let's set this up. I have the first image that you shared with me. Mm-hmm. I'm going to put it full screen, and then you will, I guess, narrate it and go through it. Ed, are you ready for that?
Yeah.
All right. So let's do this quick.
So now remember, this is a limited universe, right? So you're talking Washington, Idaho, okay, the 2 universities, and all that's going on there. So we have BK in the center, right? And then if you start to look, we'll start up in the upper left corner. So we have the Amazon search K-bar knife. Then next to the right, purchase the Amazon gift card. Then to the right, purchase the K-bar knife with the Amazon gift card. Okay. Then had the K-bar delivered to the Pennsylvania home in his name. and checked online for the delivery status several times. Then the knife sheet with BK's DNA found under the victim at the crime scene. Okay. Researched and tried to delete the Amazon search and purchase history post murders. Okay. Amazon search for the K-bar knife for purchase post murder. So he's looking to replace the knife. Okay. Then we can go, we can start in, let's go to underneath the Amazon upper left. You see that we know, let's go to the center with the knife. Okay. We know that the pathologist post-mortem exam says victims murdered by a large fixed blade knife, which is a K-bar. I showed you how large it is, right? Okay. Then let's start to the left. Okay. He's a PhD candidate in criminology with knowledge of CSI. Okay. At the time the murders, he lived at the campus apartment for Washington State University and visits Moscow, Idaho frequently.
Ed, one second. Ed, 1 second. By a show of hands in the chat, who loves this flowchart that Ed Wallace himself put together? And don't think this is it, because there's a whole nother, there's more. But let us know in the chat by putting a 1 if you love this kind of stuff. Let us know if this is boring to you. It's not boring to me, definitely not. And it's not, I'm not just saying it because Ed made it. This is good stuff. And I want to thank you, Ed Wallace, for putting this together. Great way for people to watch this. So we're at this section right here. Looks like there's
right. So yeah, at the time of the murders, he was living at the campus on Washington State University, and he visits Moscow frequently. He purchased the mask from Dick's. We got the receipt. We know exactly when he did it and how he paid for it. Witnesses see the
wearing the balaclava that you wore on the air with us.
Say again?
Was that the same type of mask, that balaclava that you wore on the air with us?
Yes. Okay. At the time of the murders, the one witness sees the black mask with the bushy eyebrows. Just a few hours later, after the murder, after taking a shower at his house, he has a selfie showing his bushy eyebrows. Okay. This hasn't come out. We have video evidence that's going to come out from Costco and Albertsons the day of the murder. And he also visits the crime scene the day of the murder. So you can see there's evidence of cleanup and evidence of disposal. Then if we go to videos of the white Hyundai Elantra around the murder scene, time of the attack and after, we showed you that just now. He owns a 2015 white Hyundai Elantra with PA license plates, which he then changed to Washington license plates after the murder. Okay. And his cell data shows that he visited 1122 23 times before the murders and 1 time after the murder. Okay. So that is the totality of that information. Now, again, we're working in a limited universe of possible suspects in this area between Washington and Idaho. Okay. So let's go on to the next one.
Yes, give me 1 second. I got to put you back on because I got to change screens. All right. Oops, that's not the one.
It's there, but you got to blow it up.
No.
It's in the center.
Stand by. I got it, Ed.
Stop breathing down my neck.
Stop breathing down my neck.
Okay.
Flowchart number 2.
All right. So on July 9th, he awkwardly attended that pool party that you saw in that Dateline episode. July 10th, he texts that young lady who thought his text was a little awkward, and she got a bad feeling about it. A couple days later, he's seen hiking up a trail at night when everybody is coming down from the trail because nighttime is approaching and they're leaving there. Again, 6 weeks after the arrival at Washington State University, he Googles about Ted Bundy. August 21st, he gets a traffic ticket by the murder scene. He gets a traffic ticket by the murder scene. Okay. September 2nd, the woman that he works with, which can be seen in the middle above his initials, she had her key stolen, and then or this key was missing, and then the key comes back. So now some people are saying that he took the key and made a copy of the key. Okay. Because on September 2nd, the same woman's apartment broken into. Okay. And then October 5th, there are social media searches that are being conducted of the women, and he's screenshotting them. So he's saving these women on his phone. Okay. And some of these women are friends with the victim. Okay. October 9th, the porn searches. And if you think about what he was searching, it was passed out women, all this different thing. It's what we call power and control porn, right? Because you know, your victims are drunk or passed out or whatever the case may be, and it's basically a rape, right? Because the women cannot consent to having sex if they're in that state. Okay. All right. October 19th, he Googles, can psychopath behave pro-socially? Okay. Odd, right? December 30th. Let's go November 13th. So the white vehicle is captured 7 times driving around the murder scene. Okay. November 16th, Google's University of Idaho murders, and November 18th, watched another Ted Bundy YouTube video. Again, we see on November 13th at 10:31 a.m., selfie in the bathroom. November 13th at 6:17 a.m., 3 phone calls to his dad's account. So now I don't know what's coming out of this, because I know his sister has made statements that she suspected him of these murders. Now, one of these phone calls was 23 minutes, but the longest one was over 50 minutes. Was he talking to his dad? Well, you know,
or talking to his dad and an attorney. This gives me Brian Laundrie vibes a little bit, right? Because there was those long phone calls after he murdered Gabby Petito, his fiance.
Yeah, so this has to be looked into a little bit more.
Right.
Okay.
And I want to say something too. I have 6 lines of service with my cell provider. Myself, my wife, my two boys, my mom when she was alive, and then my stepmom. So I have 6 lines of service under my name. So I don't find anything odd about Bryan Kohberger's dad having all of his family on his account. It's maybe not commonly done, but it is done. I do. That's what I have.
Well, in my cell phone plan, I have all my family are on it. My wife, myself, and my 2 boys. They're all on this. We're all on the same plan because we get the discount. Okay. Right. Yeah. All right. Okay. But the phone calls are the key. We got to find out who was actually he was conversing with during these phone calls that occurred after the murder.
And that will come up during the trial. Obviously, the state is going to bring that up, and the defense is going to try to fight it. Ed,
remember, he fled the scene around 4-ish in the morning, and the next phone call, the 23-minute one, was at 6:17 a.m.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then, you know, at 10:30, so some a little bit more than 4 hours later, he's taking that selfie out of the shower,
right,
with his shirt all buttoned up and his bushy eyebrows. So nobody can say he didn't have bushy eyebrows back then. That is the day of the murder. Okay. So you given the totality of all of these things, and in this limited universe of that particular area, he just jumps out as the suspect.
Yeah.
Okay. Absolutely. And, you know, got to explain that DNA. You're not going to be able to explain that away. It seems to me that the evidence is just piling on and piling on and piling on. And yes, a lot of it is circumstantial.
Yeah.
Okay, but many a case have been made on circumstantial evidence.
Absolutely. We've seen many cases like that. Somebody said in the chat, you get a discount? Yeah, we do. We do. You get a discount for multiple lines of service, but there's also a in New York. I don't know about other states, but T-Mobile, the service that I use, offers a law enforcement and/or military discount. So you get a little bit of a discount there, and you have to prove. You can't just say, "Oh, I was part of law enforcement." You got to send them your ID, right? We had to do that whole authentication thing online with them, and
it's called the Heroes Plan.
There you go. So yes, Zoe Bay, you get it. We do get a discount. Ed, this flow chart is just, there's so many people in the chat that are loving this and loving to get to see it like this. And I'm sure that there'll be many, many channels who will screenshot this or look at this and tag us in it. Look, you guys can use this stuff, but as long as you give Ed Wallace credit and the channel here credit, then we're more than happy to have people use this and see it. Both pages. I'm right, Ed. I didn't even talk to you about it, but I'm sure you feel the same way, right?
Yes, yes. And there was a question earlier in there about a receipt for Dickie's jumpsuit. Yes, they did recover that, but apparently during one of the hearings I witnessed during evidence hearing, the state told the defense team that they're not going to be bringing that into evidence in the trial.
Oh, there you have it. We're at the hour mark. I don't like to go really far past this, but I want to highlight some of these chats. Like Patty says, I'm a part of a channel that which I like, and they think Kohberger is innocent. And Ed, you and I say this all the time. It's good to have people say that, but come with me with the reasons why you feel he's innocent, and we will give you the reasons why we feel he's not. And like Ed and I say all the time, it's the totality of everything. And we look at, as investigators, we look at what leads and what all roads point to. And if you look at that flow chart, you get. Can
you give me another suspect in that community that has all of these things highlighted in those two charts? Because all roads lead to Rome. Okay, all these roads are leading to Bryan Kohberger.
Christina in the chat says, y'all need to send this to the prosecution. I think that they don't need our help. They may come up with something like that already. They might have something like that because, listen, Ed talks about this all the time. He has testified as an expert in over 399 appearances, right? Yeah. So 399 trials, and Ed's not finished yet. So this isn't going to be his last hurrah. So yeah, it is what it is. Ed, you see something?
Yeah. There's more evidence too. Absolutely. There's going to be more that's coming out. Okay. Absolutely. So, the death penalty is on the table here because the judge ruled it so. And I could see, a plea coming to do life in prison without the possibility of parole. I'm sure that's on the table. Oh. Save everybody the headache of this trial and the pain and suffering and the of this trial. And let's see. But I haven't heard anything about it. But typically in cases like that, they'll put that plea out there.
Karna says she's looking forward to Ed bringing us the forensics at this trial. We're going to have days upon days of forensics to go over because this trial is going to be not a short one. And we're going to have tons of things to talk about, Ed, right?
And oh my God, guess what? There was snow on the ground at this crime scene days afterwards, and they still managed to do all the crime scene work. Unlike over in the Massachusetts State Police.
They didn't use a leaf blower?
No, they didn't use a leaf. Slowly I turn. You said leaf blower. You're going to trigger me with these words. I see them in the crowd here in the chat talking about red Solo cups, leaf blowers, and Stop and Shop bags. Okay.
Ed has that Stop and Drop bag in his studio. That's part of his props that he has in the studio. I have one local news outlet that I want to cover. This is from Idaho News, KTVB, number 7. I want to play this. And again, when we come back, hashtag Ed, hashtag DutyRon, I'll go to the super chats that we missed. There's about 10 or 11 of them. And then we'll get to the live chatting comments. So put your comments or questions in the live chat, and we will love to answer some questions for you guys.
The courts will decide whether he committed these murders or not. But we can show you the evidence that they have assembled.
Tonight, we are giving you a look at the new Dateline episode featuring what NBC calls never before reported evidence in the Moscow murders case.
The trial for the man accused of killing 4 University of Idaho students in 2022 is set to start in Ada County in August. Abby Davis talked to Dateline correspondent Keith Morrison this afternoon. And Abby, what can people expect from the episode this week?
Well, the 2-hour special, The Terrible Night on King Road, will air right here on NBC tomorrow night. Morrison says it'll help clear up the timeline of events the night before and morning of the murders.
This is all in the possession of law enforcement, but it's been held pretty close to the vest.
Ahead of Dateline Friday, correspondent Keith Morrison sheds light on new details he says will be revealed in the Moscow murders case.
It has not been out in public at all.
The special comes 2.5 years after University of Idaho students Madison Mogan, Kaylee Goncalves, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin were stabbed to death in an off-campus home.
We don't know why he would have selected the people he selected.
Bryan Kohberger, the man accused of the murders, will stand trial in Ada County in August. Morrison says Dateline is sharing photos, videos, and other digital materials from the investigation into the murders for the first time. Specifically, this video NBC obtained of a white car investigators say was seen in the area around at the time of the killings.
We're able to tell you what kind of material Bryan Kohberger was downloading on his phone, who he was calling, where he was calling from, when he was calling, what his timeline was, what his interests were.
Dateline also interviewed former U of I students, including a woman who says she met Kohberger at a pool party just months before the murders. Kohberger was a graduate student in criminology at nearby Washington State University at the time.
I definitely felt a little obligated to chat with him because to me he seemed a little awkward, kind of like you might expect for a PhD student who didn't know anyone at the party and was maybe trying his best to kind of get out there and be social and make friends.
Morrison tells me they spoke with criminology and genetics experts, as well as a woman who says her daughter was supposed to be in the house that night. Do sources have concerns about any of the evidence, specifically the DNA on the knife sheath, or how the evidence was collected by law enforcement?
We did talk about that. We got into it in some detail. It may not have been quite in the rule book, but in a case where they felt that there was a significant public interest in finding the answer.
If they were alluding to the Albrightsville DNA collection, that is well within the playbook. That is not a rule book. There was nothing that was outside of the realm. We saw that with Rex Heuermann, how he was arrested with something that he discarded in the garbage. And it's a term that we use all the time. There is no expectation of privacy to anything that you discard in the garbage, whether it's yours or your neighbors or publicly. Ed?
You have to put the garbage to the curb. Once it's at the curb, it is you have no longer a right to privacy to it. If the garbage is on your property, you still have a right to privacy to it.
Bingo, Yahtzee, don't pass go.
I got a question here for Maria. I just want to answer out.
Yeah, sure.
So Maria, asking if could this be his first murder? Maybe he was going to turn himself into a serial killer, or could he have done this someplace else? I do know law enforcement in Pennsylvania and law enforcement in Idaho and Washington were looking at him after he was arrested for potential other crimes, but to date, nothing has come of that.
Yes. And somebody else, I don't know who it was, asked, could it be a problem for the prosecutors that the 1122 King Road home was demolished, and for the jury as well? I say yes. We both say that was a huge, huge mistake. But don't forget, The defense and the prosecution agreed to it, and also the judge. So,
yeah, you know, we said at the time, better have it than not need it than to need it and not have it. But, you know, they didn't listen. The judge, the prosecution, and defense said, okay, but then they moved the venue. So, I mean, it would have been some trip up from that court to here to see the house. But again, it was 3D laser scanned. Inside and outside was 3D laser scanned by state and local law enforcement, as well as the feds. And then the defense brought their own crime scene expert in to 3D laser scan the house. But at that time, the house had been altered dramatically from the time of the crime scene to the time that the defense expert got in. So they have good quality floor plans, digital floor plans of the house and the exterior. So they can do virtual walkthroughs of the crime scene. And everything these laser scan sees, measures, and they're a centimeter accurate. So it's a good product, using that with virtual reality. And in this case, they're building a model which the defense calls a dollhouse, which is bullshit. Yes, they have a physical model based on these scans. They can actually do it to scale, but for whatever reason, somebody made the decision not to make the model to scale. And that makes no sense to me. You know, working in architecture, I made plenty of models, and all my models of projects were to scale.
right. Yeah. I mentioned when Charlie, our Secret Service agent, retired Secret Service agent friend, he was the lead up at Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton's private home up in Chappaqua. And when I went to his office in Manhattan, he showed me like a large scale constructed home, and it was the inside and outside of the Chappaqua residence of Hillary and Bill Clinton. And it was impressive to see that. And that was done by the Secret Service. But this, switching gears and changing the subject, this is Bryan Kohberger's father's home here. And this is the driveway where we saw the FBI agents, and they threw the flash grenades and the bangs in the front door and were surrounding this place. It's argued that he walked through his name, right? You could see right here, this is a really good shot of a drone. Bryan Kohberger was seen, and they'll have this surveillance video will be presented in court. Bless you if that was a sneeze. Bryan Kohberger was seen walking across this driveway here and going into his neighbor's garbage and discarding garbage into this neighbor's home. And they in turn took it out to the curb or to a different location. And so that's what we're going to be seeing this as this trial unfolds. And it's great that we have this footage, because it gives you a little bit of an idea of what he went through, the lengths he went to try to hide whatever he was taking. And this is a whole month and a half after the crime occurred. He was still doing cleaning. And then if that might be part of the OCD, who knows, Ed? You know what I mean?
Yeah. There was a question in the chat about what do we think about the phone calls made after the murders occurred and to the father. We don't know that the phone calls were to the father, but at this stage in the game, we know definitely that law enforcement knows who those calls were made to and have reached out to those people that he called and interviewed them. So, absolutely. You know, they have all of that I's dotted and T's crossed regarding those phone calls.
Yeah. Urban Infidel says, how do the Kohbergers explain that? I'm not sure what part of the video she's watching, but yeah, there's just a ton of stuff here. Maria says, and he was wearing gloves everywhere. Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's part of the affidavit. Let's listen to the rest of this, and then we'll get to your questions. I see so many great questions in the chat. Thank you for that.
A significant public interest in finding the answer. They may have gone outside the rule book to get the information they did.
Ada County District Judge Stephen Hippler recently denied Kohberger's attempt to throw out evidence law enforcement says led them to him. Like us, Dateline has been following this case since the very beginning. This is the show's third episode about the murders. And again, you can watch the special tomorrow at 8 p.m. right
Now, I watched the whole Dateline special. Ed, did you watch the whole thing?
No, I didn't watch the whole thing.
I scanned through it. I didn't watch the whole thing in its entirety. I just kind of scanned through it for some of the pertinent spots. You know, there was a lot of shock and awe in there, and there was a lot of stuff that was, you know, made for TV.
Right, a lot of speculation.
Speculation, and I hate that speculation. But again, a lot of the things that we talk about will be brought up at trial, and there's so many more things. And I have that whole case of humble pie. It's frozen, but I'll thaw it out once the trial is done, and we are going to serve up some humble pie for some of the people who have really come hard at us because of the position that we take as it pertains to this. Monica, what does she got, Ed?
She's saying he's innocent because he hasn't been proven guilty in a court of law. That's yes. All arrested people who are indicted and are about to stand trial are considered innocent until proven guilty. Okay. But, you know, when law enforcement arrests somebody, okay, and they get indicted, but anything can get indicted, you know, as they say, a ham sandwich. But when we lock somebody up, okay, we're pretty convinced that this is the guy that did it.
Yeah.
Okay. And we normally, in a normal investigation, and not what happened up in Karen Reed's case, you know, we have all our I's dotted and T's crossed and all our ducks in a row before we walk into the door to present the case to the district attorney. Yeah. Okay. And then we're pretty confident that we got the right guy or gal, depending on what's happening.
Amen. Amen to that, Ed. Thank you for that. Hey, guys, if you can just take a moment right now to please hit the subscribe button and also give a thumbs up. We appreciate that. It costs nothing to do both of those things. So if you can take a minute right now just to hit that little thumbs up button, we're going to continue to take your questions for another 10 minutes until the 1:30 hour, 1:30 moment of this live stream, 1 hour and 30 minutes. We're going to try to keep it up. So let's look at the chat really quick. Met main account says, love this show. Yeah, well, we appreciate you because without you and the live audience, we really would have nothing. And we want to say thank you to all of the replay viewers, the moderators, and the super chatters. You guys are what makes this a really great place. And happy Mother's Day to everyone tuning in. Tammy, thank you for becoming a YouTube member. Kel, thank you for being a member for over 26 months. She says, hello, it's been a minute. All is well. See you all soon. Thank you, Kel. It's always great to see you. Carmel McPartland says, sadly, so sad, DutyRon and Ed. Yeah, this is a sad case because it involves 4 University of Idaho college students, Xana Kernodle, 20, Ethan Chapin, her boyfriend, 20, Madison Mogan, 21 at the times of these murders. Don't forget this happened November 13th, 2022, and Kaylee Goncalves, 21 years young. Also, Barbara George. I haven't seen Barbara in a little bit. Thank you, Barbara, for being here. Much love and respect to you. She says the best channel for true crime. Well, we appreciate that. Geneva, Carol, thank you. She just became a YouTube member. Nikki, thank you for becoming a member. Miss Brewer, thank you for becoming a new member. Quatson Chapin, thank you so much for the 10. Thank you for always having great content. Ed and Carmina C. Edwin and Carmina C. So I believe this is Josh, our producer's parents, the producer Josh who passed away. This is his mom and her husband. So Carmina and Edwin, we love you. I actually just last night looked at the locket that you sent to me. She sent me a locket on a chain of Josh's ashes inside a locket, and I looked at that just last night. It's amazing that she's here in the chat. So thank you for that. Ed and I are sending you a lot of love and strength. Clara D, thank you for the 5. Ed, put more work into that chart. That whole Canton Police Department, Massachusetts State Police did investigating Officer John O'Keefe's murder. And the whole Canton Police and the Mass State Police.
And that was the death of an officer. You got our theme song?
Yeah, there it goes. Oh my God, Mr. Wallace. Thank you, Clara D, for bringing some comedy to the show. Hope and Happiness, thank you for becoming a YouTube member. Carrie, always great to see you. From my friend from Florida, our friend from Florida. She said, I watched and twice on Sunday. It's, yeah, this is, what did he say? This is probable cause.
Every day of the week and twice on Sunday.
Thank you, Carrie, for a little bit of a humor in this madness. Mary Fitz, thank you for becoming a member. I think that's all the super chats. Thank you guys and girls for that. So yeah, we're getting a lot of people laughing because when I hit this button, thank you. Thank you. I have the full song on button number 2, but we'll get a copyright strike, so we can't play it all in its full. So yeah, Bryan Kohberger, his trial starting in August, and before you know it, we're already into May, right? It's May 11th. By the time you know it, it's going to be here. We hope that there's no more delays, but the evidence keeps mounting up, and as we hear more and more, it's common sense. Common sense. When you look at this thing and you say to yourself, how many coincidences can you write off? How many coincidences in this case can you write off? The bushy eyebrows, the clothing, the things that we don't know about, but the driving past the crime scene, the 23 times prior to the leading up to these murders, his Google searches, his watching of these videos as it pertains to the case. Yeah, people will argue, the pro-burgers will say, well, we all watch true crime. We watch true crime. So what makes it so bad that he was looking at Joseph Scott Morgan and Ashley Banfield? Well, what makes it look bad is that there's a whole bunch of other things that point to him. If he was just an innocent person on the sidelines watching this thing, you would say to yourself, okay, come on, guys. But it's the totality of everything that piles up. All right. A couple more questions and we wrap it up because we got 3 more minutes. So let's get some let's try to find one of the more interesting questions. Doro Della, thank you for becoming a member. Awesome. Thank you. Turning this phone off during the murders. Trailblazer ATB, thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
iBird or Lbird says there's no such thing as coincidences. Christina says, laughing my ass off. Please, Stop and Shop bag on the head of Ed Wallace.
The unknown crime scene investigator.
Yeah.
The
gong.
For those of you who remember the Gong Show.
Yeah, Chuck Barris. Dora Della says, this is like all the evidence they have against the McAlberts. Stacked up. Yeah. Miss Alba Trumbull, thank you for being here. Happy Mother's Day. Hashtag Ed, hashtag DutyRon. Do we know what he was hiding in the neighbor's trash? Yes. Yes. We know what he put in there.
They recovered it, and it's in the return document to the judge.
Correct. Correctamundo.
If you Google it, you can find it.
Yeah, it's out there. Hey, Ed and DutyRon, what was the most valuable info you took from the Dateline special? Well, we scanned through it, and I think some of the real values to me, and I'll let Ed take it after this, were the saved pictures of mutual friends of these victims. Was also what was interesting to me too was the phone calls. Those lengthy phone calls were big as it pertains to a detective. Ed, I'll let you go. I don't want to.
Yeah, the phone calls were big, and the videos of the white car at the date of the murders and that time span driving around that area.
110%. 110%. The DNA is important too. For Sakes Alive says that
Well, we knew that before the Dateline show, but absolutely, yeah.
All right, I think we'll wrap it up. I just want to find one more video so I can do something here, Ed. So just take a minute to. Hey, I want to say, Ed, kudos to you on those 2 flowcharts. Those were amazing. Those of you who watched it, what did you think of the flowcharts that Ed created for us? Let it rip in the chat. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Or was it just I thought it was great.
Yeah, the Britney Spears song. You take it for what it's worth. I see somebody was laughing so hard about that. It just, remember, never mind. You got to take it for what it's worth. There was a little sensationalism with that thing.
Agreed, Ed. Agreed. All right, we're going to get ready to wrap it up. I think we had a good show tonight, and I think all of you enjoyed it. If you've enjoyed it, please give us the thumbs up, subscribe, share. We have a merch store that Kristen mans. We have a website, DutyRon.com. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, all one word, DutyRon. We upload a lot of different stuff on our social medias. We have a DutyRon Police and Crime chat group. I also have a Discord, and we have the Buy Me a Cup of Coffee app. We also have Patreon, and we have all different ways to support this community. As I always say, this is about the victims and their families. This is a horrific murder scene at 1122 King Road. Ethan Chapin, Xana Knodel, Madison Mogan, and Kayla Goncalves, their families mourn the loss of their children, their adult children. And no matter what, us as parents will say it. My son's in his 30s and the other is in his late 20s. They're my kids. They're my children. So some people argue, oh, why are you saying they're kids? Why are you saying they're children? These are, grieving parents, whether they're, mothers and fathers together or separated and remarried. It doesn't matter. These are their kids, and this is what it's about. So I always want to put them at the forefront. You take a look at these pictures at some of their happier times with their pets and so forth. And I can't overemphasize the importance of being respectful. And we always talk about victims and their families, and that's what's most important. And we put it at the forefront. We work for them. When we were detectives and you were in the crime scene unit and I was working in the squad, we work for the victims and their families. Ed?
100%. So our thoughts and prayers go out to these families. We're getting closer to the trial. It's still slated for August, but there's a lot of things that are going to come out between now and then. So we'll find out more evidence possibly. And in addition, if more comes out, I think I don't have to make another flow chart because, the totality of everything is just piling on here, that everything is pointing. Now, if you do a statistical analysis of this, try to find somebody else that will tick off all of these things and point towards this quadruple murder. I don't think you're going to find anybody that can tick off all those things and get them associated with this quadruple murder.
Agreed, brother. Agreed. And like I said, we're gonna cover this every day. No matter how long this trial takes, we're going to cover this every day. And as the new information gets released in the courtroom, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about the things that we were wrong about. We're going to talk about the things we were right about. But at the end of the day, I feel that when the prosecution rests and this case goes to the jury, I feel we will get a guilty verdict as it pertains to murders of these 4 University of Idaho college students. On behalf of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace, we want to wish you a good evening. Ed, I know you have something to say about all of the on the end of all of our videos. I'll let you take the last word, Ed.
So, folks, I thank you for being here, sharing this time with us. I know you can get your true crime fix anywhere you like on YouTube, and we appreciate that you take the time to share it with us. We're working on another show for the Karen Reed case about a specific piece of evidence that could be pivotal in that case as well. If the defense understands this and has done some testing or for this particular item, it could be, show definitively whether or not this crime occurred. That said, the way the prosecution says, so with that said, I always say, folks, that please be safe, please be prepared, and always watch your six.
Amen, Ed. Thank you so much for everyone joining. We look forward to our next live stream, which will be very soon. Peace and love from Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace. And we leave you with Ethan, Xana, Maddie, and Kaylee. Peace and love, guys.